Well, hey everybody, this is Chris DeFurio with Keys to the Shop. Welcome to another edition of Shift Break. Today's episode is brought to you by the Ground Control Cyclops Brewer from Voga Coffee. The Ground Control Brewer is taking batch brew coffee to new heights, and it is really changing the game for what we can expect from our coffee. The SCA award-winning technology gives you the ability to extract and control a range of flavors that you never thought possible from your coffee. And not only does this make amazing batch brew coffee, but it also makes hot chocolate, tea, batched iced lattes, batched cold brew concentrate for nitro. There's so much versatility in this machine on top of being a game changer in terms of quality. It's something that I highly recommend to you. If you want quality and versatility in your shop, look into getting a Ground Control Cyclops brewer. You can find out more information and reach out to them when you go to the website groundcontrol.coffee. On that website, you'll find a breakdown of what the Ground Control does, who's using it, even where you can taste coffee from this machine, as I have, and it really is mind-blowing. Again, that website to find out more information, groundcontrol.coffee. Today's episode is also brought to you by La Marzocco. La Marzocco espresso machines have been handmade in Florence since 1927. La Marzocco espresso machines are the quintessential espresso machines for the specialty coffee industry. And in all of their business and how they innovate with their technology, it's all based in responding to the needs of their customers. Back in 2018, La Marzocco USA created a competition called Crush the Rush that focused on testing speed, efficiency, and consistency of baristas on bar. And one of the pieces of equipment that was highlighted on there that highlights their value so much is the KB90 espresso machine. It has a straight-in portafilter technology for speed and ergonomics, auto flush for increased cleanliness, built-in scales for improving consistency, and that competition really hit at the heart of what it means to work in a busy cafe. So if you're in the market for a new espresso machine, then you definitely need to reach out to them over at lamarzocco.usa.com, and they're also available to talk with you one-on-one. You just need to contact one of their sales directors by emailing info@lamarzocco.usa.com. Okay, everyone. Well, today I wanted to talk with you about turning the ship. I mean, there comes a time in your business where you realize that you need to make a change for the better. You're not satisfied with the quality of your beverages, your hospitality. You want to institute some systems because up until this point, it's just been easy enough to have no systems. So you haven't put them in place. That is the story for so many people. Now, turning the ship is kind of difficult if you expect to make a hairpin turn after having been in business for any number of years. Really, after 2 years, it's going to be more difficult for you to make these changes. The longer you've been in business and the bigger your business is actually, the bigger the turning radius of your vehicle. That's why you see on semi-trucks that sign that says this vehicle makes wide turns. It's a large vehicle. Now, if your business is more of a smart car, it's not very old, there's very few employees, change can be made fairly easy. It's like if you want to have a staff meeting, all you need to do is turn around. And that might be you, but let's say you have 2 or 3 stores and you've got 15 to 20 staff between all of them. Now, if you want to make a change, things are going to take a little bit longer. So there are 3 options that you have for making change in this situation when you've got a business that's gone down the road a little bit and has got a wider turning radius. Now, on the extremes, you can go too fast, and what that ends up doing is it just pisses everybody off, including the customers. You end up burning yourself out, your management, the baristas. Not enough care is taken in the transition to account for the size of your business, and what ends up happening is that it doesn't take. It's like you have painted without primer, and it just won't stick. And so the standards that you just did a blast email about and said, okay, we're going to start cleaning the bathrooms this way to 5 or 6 stores and to all of these employees, and you expect that's going to do it, it's not going to stick. It might have when you had 3 employees, but not now. There has to be more in that process. And the opposite extreme of this is not doing anything because we know it's going to be a lot of work. And so we say, well, I guess I'm just going to lower my standards, or I'm just going to accept the status quo. And that is fine because I don't want to have to go through all the work that it takes to change the standard. So I know that the bathrooms aren't as clean as they could be. but it is such a pain, and I'm so busy, and maybe, then we start to cut corners and we start to just mention it to a few people, and now we've got bathrooms being cleaned lots of different ways because we haven't done the work to do this right. When you're turning the ship, really, again, you need patience to know that it's going to take a while. Part of patience is also prioritization. Maybe you have 20 different items. If you have a large business, you really should be focusing on probably 3 of those things, if that, to see through to completion so the change is actually rooted in the business. At that point, you can move on to something else. But prioritization of your plans for change is necessary because you end up overwhelming people by talking about all the things you want to change, and now we don't know what to focus on. We need to have self-editing capabilities. This is going to be hard if you're a verbal processor and you just want to dream and create and visioneer and all that fun stuff. That ends up confusing people a lot of times because you're the boss or you have authority, and that kind of makes things confusing. Self-editing, prioritization on what you're actually going to change, see it through patiently until it's actually adhered to consistently, and then move on. And of course, when you're talking about making these changes and turning the ship, you can't really expect these things to happen consistently unless you've got systems in place. So that means checklists, standard operating procedures, meetings, emails, all points of communication need to be consistent around the standard that you have. In this case, we're talking about something like bathrooms. And of course, really, we're talking about systems in terms of, communication and also the standard that's being communicated. First, you would say, well, if I want everybody to clean the bathrooms the same way across the store, and we're going to level up the expectation of bathroom cleanliness, then we need to have a standard operating procedure that's very detailed about how we are going to clean the bathrooms. Once you get that standard put in place, now you've got to have a timeline for communicating that in the standard for your communication. It might look like having a meeting with your managers, showing them the new standard, having questions asked. Maybe you get to edit it a couple of times. Now you've got a final document, and then you have a rollout. So it might be that you give about a month where it's like, this is the time where we're rolling out this new standard. And after this month, we're all going to be doing this and being held accountable for it. And that's essentially how you would do any number of new standard operating procedures. So that new standard is now in effect, but that was an act of patience, right? So you could have just sent out a blast email that said, hey, everybody, we need to clean the bathrooms more. They're looking really dirty. Just take some extra time to look around and do some cleaning, okay? Thanks, guys. You rock. High fives. And oftentimes that last part is there to try to make it a little bit easier to swallow, like the sugarcoating the pill about how dirty the bathrooms are. It's like a leadership act of insecurity. But we won't get into that. I'm sure that many of you have sent emails like that. Hey, would you kind of generally do better in this area, please? And then you're frustrated later on because people aren't specifically doing better because you gave them some kind of weird generality. It's just not the way it's going to happen. As you grow, if you want to make changes, you've got to have patience, you have to prioritize, and you have to have systems for how you apply these things. Again, if you have a really small business, this kind of thing can be done fairly quickly. But as you get up to the 2 or 3 store level and beyond, things start to take a little bit more time. And that's where patience, prioritization, and systems help in the process of successfully turning the ship. So I hope that this was helpful for you. Thank you so much for listening today, and I will see you here next week on another edition of Shift Break. From keys to the shop.